Hey, we are back with 10 tenets of difficult conversations. Number 7, be clear. And number 8, be connected. Rob, what's there to be clear about?
What is there to be clear about? Okay, 7 and 8. 7 and 8. For those of you who've been paying attention, we're getting practical right now. So a lot of the other six were all about like setup, like things to think about prior to get ready for that conversation. 7 and 8 are all about how to have it. And so I showed you this, Tim. And we created this was years ago. This was like a fill-in kind of leading under pressure little workbook. And because this was coming up, this how to have these difficult conversations was coming up all the time. And then look at this graphic, Tim. I'm gonna put it right up there.
I love the redwood, dude.
That's from years ago. I think this thing was produced in like 2010. There's a whole story behind the tree, which is another for another day. But it was this thing about tough conversations is not news. And so we leaned into, so what is some of the best research out there about how to have them? What does it look like? So this is the 7 and 8 are the architecture of a conversation that I would suggest has been very, very helpful to me. And number 7 is about being clear. And it so there's 4 steps in the conversation. 7 is 1 and 2, and then 8 is 3 and 4, if that makes sense. So there's 4 kind of sort of rhythms of a tough conversation that I suggest people work through. And the first one is frame. This is in the whole context of being clear. There's 2, frame and express. And this is where it can feel like forever for a person, but framing is all about and I had a person slash therapist in my life who actually gave me this just unbelievable gift. He called it the word before the word. So in other words, before you tell someone, people walk into these conversations, they go that I'm just gonna blurt it out what I want to say. His point was to describe and take your time, even though this conversation may make you nervous or you have anxiety about it, or if you have no anxiety, this is still good advice, because people who don't have anxiety tend to just be like, let's just get it done. Yeah. And so frame is expressing your intent before you ever say what you're going to say. That's why he called it the word before the word. Dr. Tim Weber said that. And so this is me, if I'm in a tough conversation with you, Tim, saying, my intent in the tough conversations I want to have with people is to make sure that I'm clear, but I also make sure that I listen to you and hear what's important to you. And I'm working on this. So imagine this, someone who's dreading this conversation, this will feel like a lifetime, that framing section, but it's the word before the word, expressing your intent for the conversation and the relationship before it starts. And then the second part of being clear in tenet number 7 is express. So it's funny, on this graphic, it says data and interpretation. This is where you say, so now you've taken that moment. It might be 20 seconds to express that framing and that intent, the word before the word. And now it's saying, basically putting it out there. So here's what I see. Here's what I would like to see change. Here is what I would like to say that I have not said before. So you've expressed, you've framed, and now you express. And I want to hear, can I go through number 8 as well, Tim? And I want to hear your thoughts on it. So then, and this is for folks who really, like, we all have these where we struggle. And so it's a great mantra for me. So frame and express is about being clear. It's about, you haven't sort of begged for their response yet or asked for their response. Number 8 is about being connected. And so at this point, it's about testing. So you're soliciting their reaction. So tell me, based on what I've said, what did you hear? How did that land on you? And being ready at this point for them to say something where it might, bring on your reactivity. We'll talk about that one later in later tenets, but it's just a test. So frame, express, and then now we're being connected. So it's about soliciting that reaction. So tell me what you heard. And then once you've heard and you've really listened, and maybe you've even paraphrased back what it is you heard, the last thing in this being connected, which is tenet number 8, being connected, is to inquire. So this is also, so given what I've said, and now your reaction to that, here's what I intend to do. Here's what I intend to do. Give me your reaction to that. So that there's a fundamental framework for this conversation. The one other thing that I would add to this is that oftentimes, especially people who struggle in these kind of conversations, is sometimes it's okay to be redundant. And what I mean is to repeat what you've expressed. Because if they didn't hear it, sometimes it takes you saying almost the exact same script 3 times without reactivity for it to begin to land.
Or maybe they didn't understand it the same way twice, and it
Or
causes them to pause and be like,
very good.
well, I actually thought, because they felt, right? And our feelings and our emotions and our anxieties, they get in the way. Um,
Yep,
I
that's
love this.
great.
I just have to throw this in. The kindness games, we have defined kindness as the endeavor to recognize the human on the other side of each life scenario and ask myself, how can I ensure they are served well?
Yep.
And this is a prime example, right? I love how you're one, making sure that you are clear and they have aligned with you. They understand you in the same clarity, right? So message sent, message received. And then also I
Mhm.
intend to do this. This is my action plan draft.
Yep.
Let me know what you think, right? This is an important thing because a lot of people, especially in security, like Tim, we can't be kind all the time. We're in security, like business things, like I'm going to terminate you, or I'm going to put you on a performance improvement plan. Like we just can't be kind. And I say, I disagree, right? Because there's two types of performance improvement plans. The one where it's clear to the employee that this is the first step to the door and they should just start looking for a job, or the one that they're like, that actually makes a lot of sense. And I feel like I can get this done. And I feel like you want me here.
Hmm. Hmm.
And
Yeah.
that is what this be clear and be connected, especially that inquire at the end. I love that because that really does solidify the fact that we're still in this together. You're
Yeah.
still here. I have a future with you. You and I have a future together, and I want to make sure that this next plan, these next steps, make sense for both of us, and we can have that conversation.
And for all of our friends across the WiLD community and the kindness games community, and so much crossover there, which makes me smile
It's
to the
awesome.
biggest grin, is we also know that not being clear with someone is not being kind. And I think that's why we come back to those defaults. Like for some folks listening to this, I hope that you'll hear it's important and it's okay for you to be clear. That if and this is the way I say it to be a little bit more provocative and it lands with some people, is to say you can't keep everyone happy without lying to somebody. And lying to people is unkind. And so I know that's hard. I know that's hard when you're trying to care for what everyone else thinks, but that's why understanding that sometimes if you're not clear, it's so this structure, what we found is that this fundamental structure of frame, express, test, and inquire really helps people to remain objective and to stay on track. A fundamental architecture for a simple conversation. It may sound overly robotic, but it really can help because we are not robotic. We are human beings. And so a little bit of structure can help.
And the funny thing is, think of the last time you made a pitch for a new initiative, a new service, a new product, or whatever. How hard did you have to work on that messaging to make sure you really understood? You
Yeah.
understood it so well you could transmit it cleanly.
Yeah.
And these types of initiatives and presentations are much less high stakes than really awkward emotional conversations. So, like, this pre-game work is so important to making sure I understand me without emotions, without biases. Like, I understand where I am at, and now I can communicate that well. And I think this is awesome.